If you stand here today, you will hear nothing. No gunfire. No cries for help. No marching soldiers. Just the soft wind passing through New York. But 250 years ago, this same quiet ground was a place where men screamed their last words, where smoke filled the sky, and where the fate of an entire nation was being decided second by second. Thousands of forgotten heroes fought here, and most of them never made it home. Their names never entered any textbook. Their graves were never found. Their stories were swallowed by time. And the most heartbreaking part? Every day, people walk over these battlegrounds, without knowing that beneath their feet lie the bones of real American soldiers, men who gave everything, but were erased from history. Today, we're going to uncover the truth the world has ignored, the lost forts, the secret tunnels, the hidden battlegrounds where the real fight for America happened. And once you hear what lies beneath this city, you will never look at New York the same way again. New York looks silent today, too silent. People rush past each other, taxi horns echo in the air, children laugh in parks, and office towers shine above everything, but beneath this modern noise lies a truth most Americans have never heard. This land once shook with the thunder of musket fire. These quiet streets were once soaked with blood. And the air you breathe right now once carried the final breaths of men begging for freedom. 2.5 centuries ago, this ground was alive, alive with fear, alive with hope, alive with the heartbeat of a nation struggling to be born. The fog that covered New York was not morning mist, it was cannon smoke. The cries heard here were not from crowded sidewalks, but from terrified soldiers who knew they might never see sunrise again. Today, we walk comfortably over these battlegrounds without the faintest idea of what happened here. But the soil hasn't forgotten. The wind hasn't forgotten. And somewhere beneath your feet, the past is still breathing, waiting for someone to listen. There once stood a fortress so important, so strategic, that whoever controlled it controlled the entire colony, Fort George. Today, nothing remains. Not a wall. Not a cannon. Not even a plaque that tells the real story. Where the fortress once towered proudly, there now stand busy streets, traffic lights, and unaware tourists snapping photos of buildings that hide a forgotten war. Imagine this place in 1776. The ground trembles under British cannons. Smoke chokes the sky. Young American soldiers, barely older than teenagers, grip their muskets with shaking hands. They know the enemy is stronger. They know they might die within minutes. But they stand their ground because retreat means losing everything. Then the assault begins. Cannonballs tear through the air. Smoke becomes so thick that soldiers can barely see their own hands. The cries of the wounded echo against the stone walls. And in that chaos, the British overwhelm the fort. Dozens fall. Hundreds are captured. And the American dream nearly collapses right there. Today, people walk that same ground carrying coffee cups, talking on phones, laughing about weekend plans, unaware that beneath that pavement lie the memories of a fortress that once held the fate of America in its hands. Fort Washington was more than a military position, it was the final hope of a desperate army. Here, hundreds of American soldiers stood on a rocky hill overlooking the Hudson River, surrounded by forces far stronger than their own. They were hungry. Exhausted. Many had no shoes. Yet not a single one stepped back. When the British attack began, it was like watching a storm swallow the earth. Cannons roared from every direction. The ground shook. Trees splintered into pieces. Men clutched their muskets even as shrapnel ripped through their coats. Still, they refused to retreat. Some fought until their weapons broke in their hands, then continued fighting with rocks, bayonets, and even bare fists. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and cornered, but courage is not measured by victory. Sometimes courage is measured by how long you can stand before you fall. When the fort finally collapsed, hundreds were taken prisoner. Many never saw freedom again. Yet their final stand gave the Continental Army precious time to escape, time that later helped win the war. And today? Their battlefield is a peaceful park. Joggers run where soldiers once bled. Children play where cannons once stood. The silence feels almost disrespectful unless you know what happened here. The forests around Fort Tryon hold secrets the city above has forgotten. Walk through these woods on a quiet morning and you will hear nothing but birds, leaves, and the distant hum of the city, but close your eyes and listen deeper. The wind carries whispers, whispers of fear, desperation, and gunfire. During the war, this forest was a nightmare. Smoke hid everything. Soldiers stumbled between trees, unsure if the next shadow was a friend or an enemy. Gunshots echoed and vanished into the fog. The earth turned red beneath fallen leaves. And men who had never left their hometowns found themselves dying in a foreign forest for a freedom they had not fully tasted. Some officers described the battle as fighting ghosts. The British advanced silently through the fog. American soldiers fired blindly into the haze, praying their bullets found the right target. The chaos was overwhelming, men screamed for help, muskets misfired, branches snapped, and in seconds the peaceful trees became walls of terror. Today, the forest looks calm. But every tree has witnessed death. Every stone has absorbed fear. And every trail was once a battlefield where unknown heroes fought until the last breath. High on a rugged hillside stands what's left of Fort Putnam, worn stones, broken walls, and silence. For most visitors, it's just an old ruin. But for those who know the truth, this place is a graveyard of forgotten bravery. During the war, Fort Putnam guarded the Hudson River, the artery of the Revolution. If the British seized this point, the colonies would be cut in half, and the dream of independence could die instantly. So soldiers built the fort brick by brick, stone by stone, often working through freezing nights with bloody hands. When the British advanced, the fort became a shield. Cannon fire shook the stones. Men rushed between walls carrying gunpowder, shouting commands over the thunder of battle. Some soldiers collapsed from exhaustion. Others collapsed from wounds, but not one abandoned his post. They held the line because they believed the river behind them carried the future of America. Today, the fort's bones remain. The stones are cracked. The walls are broken. But the spirit is untouched. If you place your hand on the cold stone, you can almost feel a heartbeat, the heartbeat of men who stood here, praying that their sacrifice would mean something. Some battles leave behind stories. Some leave behind monuments. But the battles in New York left behind something far stranger, scars on the land itself. So violent, so explosive, that the earth changed forever. Imagine hills being blown apart by cannons. Trees ripped from the ground. Rivers turning red. Shattered limbs scattered across muddy fields. For soldiers, every step was a gamble, one wrong move and the next explosion could end everything. The cannons didn't just tear through men, they tore through nature. Valleys collapsed. Forest floors split open. Entire landscapes shifted from the sheer force of war. Historians say some of these areas are unrecognizable today because the land was reshaped by trauma. And that trauma still sleeps beneath the soil. Today, when you visit these places, you won't see giant craters or burnt trees. Time has hidden the wounds. But the earth remembers, and sometimes, after a rainy night, bones still rise to the surface. Reminders of a war the world has tried to forget. Walk through New York City today and you'll see shining towers, crowded sidewalks, and neon lights. But most people don't know that many of these streets were once soaked in blood. The concrete hides it. The noise disguises it. But history still breathes beneath every step. Broadway was once a military road where soldiers marched toward death. Wall Street was once a prison district where American captives starved behind bars. Lower Manhattan was a battlefield where smoke blinded the sky and men crawled across the dirt begging for help. Every modern street corner has a shadow. Every sidewalk has a memory. Every building stands on ground that once trembled under cannon fire. And perhaps the most painful truth of all, many heroes died here without leaving a single trace behind. No grave. No marker. No name. Their sacrifice built the foundation of a nation, yet the nation hardly remembers them. But the ground remembers. When construction workers dig deep for new buildings, they sometimes find musket balls, fractured bones, rusted buttons, and torn leather, silent evidence of a past hiding in the dark. Not every hero has a statue. Not every soldier has a grave. In New York, thousands of patriots simply vanished into the ground. No one knows their names. No one knows their stories. But their bones still sleep beneath the city. Some were buried in shallow pits after battles. Some died in forests and were never found. Others perished in brutal prison ships anchored along the coast, ships where disease, starvation, and torture killed more Americans than some battles did. Imagine dying for a country that doesn't even know you existed. Imagine giving your last breath believing someone, someday, would remember your sacrifice, but no one did. These unknown patriots are the invisible pillars of the nation. Without them, the revolution might have failed. Without them, freedom might have never taken root. And yet their stories remain locked in the soil. Sometimes, people walking through parks report feeling a strange heaviness, a sense of grief in the air. Perhaps it is imagination. Or perhaps it is memory trying to reach the surface. The forts, hills, forests, and riverbanks of New York are not just geographic locations, they are silent witnesses. They saw boys become men. They saw fear become courage. They saw defeat shape determination. And they saw death give birth to freedom. Some of these witnesses remain unchanged. A rock that once supported a dying soldier still rests in the same place. A tree that sheltered riflemen still grows. A quiet hill that echoed with cannon fire now overlooks a peaceful neighborhood. They cannot speak, but they can remember. If you sit alone in these places at sunset, you may feel it, a weight in the air, like history pressing against your skin. A reminder that you are not the first to stand here. A reminder that once, everything in this place mattered. These silent witnesses do not judge. They do not choose sides. They simply hold the truth of sacrifice, fear, hope, and the cost of freedom. This is not forgotten history. This is not a footnote. This is America, buried beneath New York. Every street, every forest, every worn stone carries the story of someone who fought for a dream. A dream they never lived to see. A dream we enjoy every day without realizing the price that was paid. These battlegrounds are not ruins. They are the fingerprints of the revolution. They are the heartbeat of a nation that refused to die, even when the odds were impossible. They are reminders that freedom is never free, it is earned, protected, and paid for with lives. When you walk through New York again, pause for a moment. Listen to the wind. Feel the ground. Look beyond the noise of the city. Because the truth is still there, waiting for someone who cares enough to see it. And now, you've seen it.